Hello dear students, Dr. Anuradha here. Hope you are doing well. Today we'll be discussing an examination method technique, indirect ophthalmoscopy. It's another topic which is important from exam point of view. So let's start. First of all, what do we mean by ophthalmoscopy? Okay, ophthalmoscopy is method to examine the posterior segment of the eye. Method of examination of posterior segment of the eye. The eye can be divided into two parts. Interior segment, the part of the eye which is in front of the lens, including the lens, is interior segment, and the part which is behind the lens is the posterior segment. To view the posterior segment, which includes retina and optic nerve, needs special examination techniques, and they are known as ophthalmoscopy. Okay, so today we will be discussing about indirect ophthalmoscopy. Why this method is called indirect ophthalmoscopy, I will shortly tell you, but let us see what we do in this. Okay, so to examine the posterior segment of the retina, we do indirect ophthalmoscopy, and the instrument which is used is called binocular indirect ophthalmoscope. Binocular indirect ophthalmoscope. As you can see the picture over here, so this is the instrument which is used. Now this instrument essentially has got few main parts, so I can just call it as BIO. Now the main parts of this instruments, they include a headband. This headband is required to fix it over the head of the examiner, so examiner wears it around his head. Then it needs to have a light source, so it has got a light source which is used to illuminate the interior part of the eye through the dilated pupil of the patient. Then it has got a viewing system. Okay, so this is the viewing system which consists of binocular lens mirror system, which helps to look at the image in binocular stereoscopic view. Now besides this instrument, we need a special lens to form an image of the retina, which is called as condensing lens. Okay, why this is called condensing lens? Because this helps to collect the reflected light rays from the patient's retina. So reflected light rays from retina. So I'll show you a diagram so that you can understand what all this is in a better way. But just to revise, there is a light source which will illuminate the retina of the patient. There is a viewing system which will help the observer to look at the image of the retina, and then there is a condensing lens which actually forms the image of the retina. So what we do here is, so you can see in this image onto the left, so the examiner is wearing the indirect ophthalmoscope over the head. The light passes from this light source, it goes to the patient's eye, through the dilated pupil it will go, and then it will be reflected back. Now when the light is reflected back, it is collected by this condensing lens which we saw, and this lens then forms an aerial image of the retina, which is then viewed by the observer through the binocular system. Okay, so image is formed between the condensing lens and the observer. So it means you are looking at the retina indirectly. You are not looking at the retina directly, but you are looking at an image which is aerial. So that is why this method is called indirect ophthalmoscopy. Okay, so here you can see an examiner is examining the patient's retina. He is wearing a indirect ophthalmoscope, and through the dilated pupil you can view the retina. Okay, now what are the characteristics of the image which are formed by indirect ophthalmoscope? It is important to know because MCQs can be asked from this. So what are the characteristics of the image characteristics of the image formed by indirect ophthalmoscope. So indirect ophthalmoscope we can call as IO. Now this image which is formed is real and inverted. Not only it is inverted, it is also laterally reversed. Inverted means that up has become down and down has become up. Laterally reversed means that right has become left and left has become right. So this is your image. Okay. Now it is a stereoscopic view. So we have got a good depth of focus. Okay. So the raised lesions, they can be very well examined through this method. Okay. It is a good resolution image and a bright image, because the system which you are using over here, the lighting system is very good and you are getting a good resolution bright image. Now regarding the magnification level and the field of view, now that depends upon what kind of condensing lens you are using. Okay, we saw that the condensing lens, now the power of the condensing lens can vary. There are mainly three types of the lenses which are in use. So we can use a condensing lens of 14 diopter, 20 diopter and 28 diopter. Okay. Now with 14 diopter lens, the magnification which is obtained, is about 5 times. With 20 diopter it is 3 times. With 28 diopter it is about 2 times. The field of view also varies. The field of view is that how much of retina you are seeing in one view. So with 14 diopter it is about 30 degree. With 20 diopter it is about 51 degree, and with 28 diopter it is about 60 degree. Okay, so you can see as the magnification decreases, the field of view is increasing. Okay, so most commonly clinically we are using the 20 diopter lens because that gives us fairly good magnification and a good field of view. So it is giving us a 3 times magnification and about 50 degree of field of view. Okay, so how does retina looks like when we are seeing it through indirect ophthalmoscope? Okay, so this is your retina. So we can see complete retina from the central part of the retina. So you can see here, this is your optic nerve head. You are seeing the central part of the retina, that is macula. You are seeing the middle or retina, which is called equator, and you are seeing the far periphery of the retina. This indented line is the far periphery of the retina, which is called ora serrata. So from the central most part you are able to see till the most peripheral part of the retina. This brown ring which you are seeing is actually pars plana, which is the part of the ciliary body, the posterior part of ciliary body. So all these structures are visible with indirect ophthalmoscope. It provides us with complete examination of the retina: optic nerve head, macula, ora serrata, equator, pars plana. If we compare the image seen by a direct ophthalmoscope with indirect ophthalmoscope, so you can see here, so this is the image by the direct ophthalmoscope. So you can, at one point of time you are seeing a magnified image, but the field of the view is quite narrow, while with indirect ophthalmoscope you can see less magnification but a panoramic view. So that is the advantage of the indirect ophthalmoscope. So we can see a large field in a single view. Then there is another technique which is used with the indirect ophthalmoscope. You must know the name of the technique, which is called scleral depression. So So what we mean by scleral depression, that we use a small depressor, this instrument is called depressor, to compress the globe a little bit, so that sometimes when the globe has got a curvature like this, so sometimes the most interior part of the globe may not be coming into the view. So we apply a gentle pressure over here so that this part bulges inside and you can see the extreme part of the retina also. So this method is called scleral depression. So all these things, they can come as your MCQs, that what all parts you can see on indirect ophthalmoscopy. So this can come as an MCQ. The scleral depression technique to look at the retinal periphery can come as an MCQ also. So we are now clear about this. Now what are the indications of the indirect ophthalmoscopy? Okay, so where we are using it, the indications of indirect ophthalmoscopy, whenever we want to do the peripheral examination of the retina. Okay, when you want to see retinal periphery in completion, we do indirect ophthalmoscopy. For example, in high myopes, as you know, high myopia is a risk factor for various peripheral retinal degenerations like retinal holes or lattice degeneration. So when you want to screen for them, you have to do indirect ophthalmoscopy. Okay, then high risk symptoms like then when there is sudden onset of floaters and flashes in a patient, decreased vision, a curtain like shadow. So all these are high risk symptoms suggestive of retinal detachment. So to look for retinal detachment or retinal tears, we have to perform indirect ophthalmoscopy. Then because of the bright illumination, in cases with media opacities, like when there is mild cataract or there is vitreous hemorrhage, or there is cataract and you are not able to see retina otherwise, then indirect ophthalmoscopy helps us to see the fundus in these cases. Then a very important indication is ROP, that is retinopathy of prematurity. It is a disease of the premature children, a potentially blinding disease. So retinopathy of prematurity examination is done using indirect ophthalmoscope. Then besides this, not only in premature babies, in children otherwise also, it is a good method to examine retina because you can examine a large retina area of the retina quickly. So in small children as well as in uncooperative patients who are not very cooperative for direct ophthalmoscopy, we can perform indirect ophthalmoscopy. Okay. Indirect ophthalmoscopy can also be done in operation theatre to assist the fundus viewing during scleral buckling surgery. And not only in the OT, pre-operative also. Pre-operative assessment of retina in the cases of retinal detachment, indirect ophthalmoscopy is a very important tool. Okay, so these are the few indications in which indirect ophthalmoscopy has to be done and the retina examination is not complete with that. Okay, so rather I would say that indirect ophthalmoscopy to examine the retinal periphery is almost indispensable for complete examination of the retina. So this was regarding indirect ophthalmoscopy. So now we will come to certain MCQs and I hope that we will be able to solve these MCQs nicely now. So first MCQ is image of retina as seen with indirect ophthalmoscope is virtual, erect, virtual and inverted, real inverted or laterally reversed, real erect or laterally reversed. So we saw the image in indirect ophthalmoscope which is formed is a real image, it is an inverted image, and it is a laterally reversed image. So choice C is the correct answer in this question. Okay. The next is a young myope complains of sudden onset of floaters and decreased vision. Following examination is urgently indicated for his condition. Choices are gonioscopy, indirect ophthalmoscopy, fluorescent angiography, retinoscopy. Now gonioscopy is examination of the angle of anterior chamber. Fluorescent angiography is done for the vascular diseases of retina. Retinoscopy is the examination, subjective assessment of refraction. So indirect ophthalmoscopy is the choice here because we want to look at the retinal periphery to rule out retinal detachment or a retinal tear. Next is, all of the following structures can be seen on indirect ophthalmoscopy except ora serrata, pars plana, pars pleccata, macula lutea. So remember the diagram I showed you, we can see ora serrata, which is the most peripheral boundary of the retina. Even pars plana is also visible. Pars pleccata is the interior part of the ciliary body, which is not visible on indirect ophthalmoscopy. Macula lutea is the central part of the retina, which is clearly visible. So here the answer is the choice C, pars pleccata. All of the following statements are true except indirect ophthalmoscopy is the gold standard for peripheral examination of retina. A patient with sudden onset floaters and flashes must undergo retina periphery examination. It cannot be performed in children. It can be performed in sitting or supine position. So the choices A, B and D are correct. However, the choice C is incorrect because indirect ophthalmoscopy can easily be performed in the children. Rather, sometimes it is the choice method, and for ROP also we are using the indirect ophthalmoscopy. So dear friends, this was regarding the indirect ophthalmoscopy and MCQ related to it. So I hope you have understood the concepts clearly and you can attempt few more MCQs also without any difficulties. So thank you very much and I wish you all the best. And we hope to come soon with another topic to discuss.